You ever feel a game coming that just hits different? Because this week, something is shifting in Chicago. The Bears are walking into Week 14 with a mindset we haven't seen in years: sharp, focused, and hungry. And the noise coming out of Hallis Hall right now? It's sending shockwaves straight toward Green Bay. Ben Johnson has spoken. Jalen Johnson has spoken. Cole Kmet has spoken. And the message is simple: we're not backing down. Ben Johnson knows this rivalry better than almost anybody. He's walked into Lambeau, stared down the noise, and walked out victorious again and again. 5 wins in his last 6 matchups. Undefeated at Lambeau. And now he brings that same fire to Chicago, where the job isn't just to win games, it's to flip the entire direction of this rivalry. He said it himself months ago: I don't like the Packers. And honestly, who in Chicago does? But this week is different. This time it's personal. He's talked openly about how dangerous this Packers defense is, how fast they move, how strong their secondary is, how this might be the toughest defensive matchup the Bears have seen all year. He's not underestimating anybody, and that should scare Green Bay. Because when Ben Johnson respects an opponent, that's when he digs deepest into his playbook. And remember, Chicago's sitting on the #1 rushing attack in football. Add a coach who loves pulling out every trick he's got? That's a dangerous combination. But Ben Johnson isn't the only one firing warnings across the border. Jalen Johnson, veteran leader, tone setter, Lambeau antagonist, came out with something powerful of his own. He said the Bears' belief is different now. That this team has built confidence from the work, from the grind, from every win stacked in the last 2 months. And he's right. Chicago has won 9 of their last 10. They're playing with swagger, toughness, and a level of unity this franchise desperately needed. And if the Bears walk out of Lambeau with a win this Sunday, it will be the first time in over 50 years they've won there twice in the same year. Chicago feels it. Jalen feels it. And you can bet the Packers feel it too. If you're enjoying this breakdown so far, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another Chicago Bears update. It helps the channel grow and keeps these videos coming. Now, back to it. Cole Kmet is the next piece of this puzzle, and what he's been saying all week adds fuel to the fire. He's talked about the standard rising in this locker room. He's talked about execution. And he's talked about how this team finally believes it can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the NFC. That's the energy Chicago needs. That's the energy Green Bay doesn't want to see. Because this game isn't just about Week 14. It's about momentum. It's about identity. It's about flipping the story of a rivalry that has tilted the wrong way for too long. And trust me, the Bears know exactly what's at stake. Stick with me, because the next update coming out of Chicago might be the biggest one yet. Chicago and Green Bay are heading into Week 14 with tension you can feel, and the latest injury updates only add more fuel to the fire. There's a lot unfolding behind the scenes, and some of it could completely reshape how this game plays out. Let's start with Chicago, because the Bears got a spark of good news. TJ Edwards, the heartbeat of this linebacker group, finally showed signs of returning. After being spotted back at practice, he's now officially a limited participant on the estimated injury report. And in a game expected to be played in freezing temperatures, single-digit wind chills, and a whole lot of smashmouth football, getting Edwards back would be massive. Green Bay is almost certainly leaning on Josh Jacobs to pound the ball, and Chicago needs veterans who can handle that kind of punishment. If Edwards keeps trending upward and ends the week as a full participant, the Bears' defense instantly becomes harder, tougher, and more complete. Now, several players were estimated as non-participants, and none of this is surprising at this point in the season. Rome Odunze has been battling that lingering foot and ankle issue for weeks. Chicago has been managing his reps, and it's become part of his routine. Same story for Kyle Monangai. Both are expected to suit up. Tariq Stevenson, though, that's the one to watch. His hip injury kept him out last week, and while the Bears hope he can ramp up, it's not guaranteed. And even if he does return, how close will he be to 100%? Ruben Hippolyte's shoulder issue also showed up on the report, but his status doesn't swing things nearly as much. The big picture here still centers on the secondary and whether Stevenson can get back on track in time for Sunday. There is some real momentum on the defensive side, though. Jalen Johnson was a full participant, great news after seeing him bounce back from both injury and surgery without any setbacks. Noah Sewell, also full with his elbow, adds even more depth. With TJ Edwards close to returning, DeMarco Jackson stepping up, and AJ Epineza continuing strong play, Chicago suddenly has options at linebacker again. And the good injury news doesn't stop there. Dominique Robinson and Andrew Billings, both dealing with concussions, were full participants as well. The extra rest days clearly helped, and Chicago's defensive front looks like it will be much closer to full strength. Meanwhile, Green Bay's injury report is crowded. Savion Williams didn't practice. Devontae Wyatt appears headed toward IR with what might be a season-ending ankle injury. And the big concern, Lucas Van Ness was spotted in a walking boot. His status now becomes one of the most important things to watch for the Packers this week. This matchup was already charged. Now, with injuries piling up on both sides, every update feels like it could tilt the balance. Stay with me, because the next section digs into a Bears stat that might surprise you, and what it means for Sunday. Green Bay's defensive line might be in real trouble heading into Sunday. With Devontae Wyatt already expected to miss time and Lucas Van Ness dealing with his own issues, the Packers suddenly find themselves scrambling for bodies. They even grabbed Jordan Riley off the Giants' practice squad just to patch the depth chart. And in a game that's shaping up to be an old-school, freezing-cold NFC North battle, you cannot afford to be thin in the trenches. This is the type of matchup where every extra lineman matters. A long list of Packers players showed up as limited, including Josh Jacobs, Matthew Golden, Dontavian Wicks, Zach Tom, Quay Walker, and more. Most of them are likely to suit up, but Golden and Walker are absolutely the names to monitor. If either of them sits, it shifts the matchup just a bit more in Chicago's favor. There are also players still working through IR practice windows: Marshawn Lloyd, Jaden Reed, Colin Oliver, Brenton Cox. Reed is the big one. If he's activated, that gives Green Bay a dangerous weapon back at a crucial time. And with their defensive line already battered, they may be forced to bring up an extra body just to survive the week. But enough about Green Bay. Let's talk about something that has quietly become one of the most impressive storylines in Chicago this season, because Dan Orlovsky shared a stat that absolutely jumps off the page. Under Ben Johnson, the Bears have transformed into a completely different rushing team. Last year, they ranked 25th in early down rushing, barely cracking 87 yards per game on first and second down. It was inconsistent, predictable, and never felt like a true identity. This year, it's a total explosion. On early downs, Chicago is now averaging 135 rushing yards per game, number one in the entire NFL. Let that sink in for a moment. If you took that early down number and counted it as their total rushing average, it would rank 6th in the league all by itself. Right now, the Bears sit second overall in rushing behind only Buffalo, and they're within breathing distance of taking the top spot. This is what happens when a team finds its rhythm. When the offensive line buys in. When a coordinator builds a scheme around strength instead of hope. When the quarterback and running backs trust each other and attack with purpose. Chicago isn't just running the ball well, they're controlling games with it. And against a Packers defensive front that's banged up, thin, and scrambling for reinforcements? That advantage becomes even more important. Stay with me, because the next part dives into the Bears player who absolutely deserves more respect after last week's performance. When a team dominates on first and second down the way Chicago has been doing, everything else becomes easier. Drives stay on schedule. Third downs become manageable or disappear entirely. And suddenly, the entire playbook opens up for Caleb Williams, giving him freedom instead of pressure. A huge part of that success comes from the running backs who've turned this offense into a battering ram. Kyle Monangai has been one of the biggest surprises in the league. How often do you find a 7th-round pick who instantly becomes a core piece? Every week he runs like he's trying to prove someone wrong, and every week he does. And then there's the offensive line. Chicago rebuilt it with intention: Joe Thuney's toughness, Jonah Jackson's nastiness, Drew Dalman's intelligence. Darnell Wright taking a step. AC is stepping in and holding his own. It's not flashy, but it's the foundation of everything this offense is becoming. But the real creativity, the real edge, starts with Ben Johnson. What he's building in Chicago isn't just play calling, it's architecture. Most coordinators show off in the passing game. Johnson shows off in the run game. The misdirection, the combo blocks, the cutback designs, the timing, it's layered, it's calculated, and for defenses, it's a nightmare. 11 players moving like one machine. That's why Chicago's rushing attack feels alive again. And no player has embodied that resurgence more than DeAndre Swift. After a frustrating year in which he struggled to find rhythm, he came into this season with something to prove, and he proved it. Nearly 7 yards per carry against Philadelphia. Explosive runs. Smart cuts. Reliable hands. He looked like the version of himself everyone once expected, maybe even better. What makes Swift's resurgence special is the way he's embraced the role. Some weeks he carries the load. Other weeks Monangai takes over. Some weeks they trade punches like a two-headed monster. And that balance has become a real weapon. Chicago doesn't have to chase a new running back. They don't have to rebuild the room. They've found a tandem that works, a system that amplifies them, and a coach who knows exactly how to use both. For the first time in a long time, the Bears have an offense that feels intentional, physical, and dangerous, especially on the ground. And that's why this team suddenly has real flexibility going forward: draft flexibility, cap flexibility, roster flexibility. When your run game is this strong, everything else becomes a luxury instead of a necessity. Credit to Swift for the bounce back. Credit to Monangai for the rise. Credit to the line for the grit. And credit to Ben Johnson for turning all the pieces into a symphony. Stay with me, because tomorrow we dive even deeper into what this new-look Bears offense can become next.